Jose, California calls itself the capital of Silicon Valley, the land of tech entrepreneurs, millionaires, billionaires, creative types. Ironically, at the very same time, they're having difficulty paying the bills, paying the pensions of the firefighters, the cops, the civil servants who work in protecting that city. The reason is with the financial crisis, there were shortfalls in those pensions that the city had to go in and make up the difference for because of the hits they took from the market sell-off. So San Jose's Mayor Chuck Reed is trying to find a way to pay those bills and make up for a $2 billion pension shortfall. Voters agreed on two main points back on those November 2nd midterm elections. They had a referendum, one of which agreed to lessen the retirement benefits for new city employees. The other one limited the financial liabilities that could be awarded there. The bottom line is it lessens the bleeding, but it doesn't make up for that full $2 billion shortfall. I asked the mayor whether his city had turned a corner.
It's an awfully big shortfall. We have a $2 billion shortfall in our pension plans. But what we're able to do as a result of the elections and the resounding statement by the voters of the city of San Jose is we have turned the corner because we're going to have new benefits for new employees, and that will allow us to begin to get control over it. We'll also keep arbitrators from giving big awards of benefits, retroactive benefits, creating unfunded liabilities. So it was a big day for the voters to say, we got to do this differently. We can't just keep laying people off, cutting services year after year. We have to get control over these costs, and that's what we're going to do. But it's just the beginning of that. We still have to negotiate all kinds of things with 11 unions. So we're not out of the woods, but we have turned the corner.
So what do those new packages look like? Are these defined contribution plans? Are these just different kind of retirement benefits that you're offering to new workers?
It could be all of the above. That's the details we've not yet worked out. We have to do that over the next month or so. The council will be giving direction to our negotiating team to what benefits to try to negotiate. It's my objective basically to cut the cost of benefits for new employees to half of what it would be under the current system. That'll be a substantial saving starting immediately because we are replacing workers over time. We'll probably replace a third of our workforce over the next 5 years. So we can save a lot of money. But the key thing is just to stop the bleeding. This is kind of immediate first aid here.
Yeah, and this bleeding really happened because of the financial crisis. The city had to make up the shortfall because of the hit that was taken to those pensions. But I want to ask you, I was looking at the average payout to the police and firefighters. It's about $68,000 for retired workers there. These workers they're not getting rich off of that kind of payout. These were jobs in which they risked their lives. So we know on the corporate side, the cradle-to-grave sort of corporate support is gone. That's a thing of the past. More broadly, do you think it should also just be the past for public servants?
Unfortunately, we're way beyond $68,000. The average person who's retired over the last 10 years, the average payout for police and fire for retirement benefits is now over $100,000. So
that's the average payout?
That's the average for people who have retired in the last 10 years. And they get a 3% increase every year, whether or not there's any inflation. So everybody that's retiring is these days is going out for over $100,000, and that's just not sustainable. It's incredibly expensive to do that. And
that's more than they made as salary while carrying out those jobs. You had to cut policemen, you had to cut firefighters. Will you still have to cut further jobs? And what about further pay cuts for those currently employed?
Unfortunately, the next fiscal year looks maybe not as bad as last year, but it still looks bad. We're looking at pension fund payment increase, an increase of like $22 million. About $15 million of that is for police officers and firefighters, and $7 million is for the rest of the workforce. So those numbers continue to go up year after year, and that's just what's killing us. That's why we got to get control over it. So next year we're going to have a gap of about 8% of our general fund. It's what it's looking like now. So we'll be asking for concessions from our workforce in order to avoid layoffs, but we'll probably end up laying off people again.
So, wow. Talk to me about the widening income gap. We've seen that on a national level. You're the capital of Silicon Valley. Tech entrepreneurs, millionaires, billionaires out there. How much has the income gap widened between those people who are having to take these cuts and the upper income bracket?
Private sector employees have taken cuts over the last several years in pay and benefits, and they've been laid off. The public sector is sort of lagging behind in terms of doing that. We're obviously having to do that now, but the private sector has already made adjustments. Now, the upper end in the private sector is still doing very well. We have companies that are making a lot of money, that are turning profits, that were profitable during the recession and continue to be so, and they're paying their people very well.
The other thing I asked Mayor Reed off camera was what happens now that Prop 19, that proposition to make marijuana legal in California, it failed statewide, but his city, 78% of voters there did agree to tax medical marijuana. He told me that come December, they are going to make the decision about whether to tax medical marijuana 5 to 10%. So stay tuned for that decision. Meantime, on tomorrow's In Business, it's Veterans Day. We're going to look at whether the Veterans Administration, whether you and I are helping to create the next greatest generation, prepare those vets like after World War II to come back and help contribute economically and financially to building up the country, or whether there's a forgotten generation about to come home, like what happened with Vietnam. From Iraq and Afghanistan, there have been a tremendous number of vets who come home looking for work. The unemployment rate among vets is 13%. Some of the top employers, the U.S. Postal Office, Walmart, Home Depot. We're going to talk about just what the financial responsibilities and financial costs are going to be. That's tomorrow on In Business.